There's a moment in every seasonal color consultant's journey when the question shifts from, can I do this work, to can I sustain this work? Seasonal color consulting is a wonderfully creative process, but it is also a business. And if we want longevity for ourselves and for the discipline, we have to understand the structure that supports the art. Today, I'm having a conversation with Wenche Veiersted in Norway about the business side of seasonal color consulting, what it demands, what are its challenges, and how to approach it with the same expertise we apply to the color palette. I hope you'll join us. Welcome, Wenche. It is wonderful to have you. If you're just joining into the video, this is Wenche Veiersted from Norway, a wonderful colleague who has been doing this business now for, over 40 years. Am I right about that? Yes. And so collectively, we have like over 55 years of experience in this business. And we wanted to share today actually about the business side of seasonal color analysis. If you caught our last video, you will know that we were talking about what got us into the Suzanne K. Gill method to start with. That's a wonderful video. If you haven't checked that already, you will want to go back and watch that one. But Wenche, we're both passionate about color, we're passionate about people and about finding their best colors. But we both know that that is not quite enough to sustain a seasonal color consulting business. So when we think about, what it takes, what was the biggest surprise for you when you got into this work? Because I'm sure, like me, you weren't thinking, first of all, oh, is this a viable, sustainable business? You were thinking about, oh, I want to learn this, right? I want to learn how to do this. So when you kind of got moved from the place where it's like, can I do this? Am I good enough to, okay, I can do this. Now what? What was the biggest surprise for you in terms of setting up your business?
Well, it was the marketing part, which I had no experience with. So it was how do I get clients? And I was new in Germany. I didn't even know the language very well yet. So that was actually a very good challenge for me because I had to learn the language quickly because I
Wow.
needed to speak to my clients. So, and then um, learning to talk about the work in a way that convinced people that this was a good idea.
Hmm.
We were competing with in a way with methods that are not as individual or deep. And most people don't have enough information to judge the difference until we really explain it well. That took me a few years to learn how to really pinpoint what we could deliver compared to the others.
Hmm. Yeah, and I would say I kind of was equally naive about marketing. In fact, I didn't even really think because I was so interested in the topic. I didn't think I would have to market it. I thought this would be like I would do a handful of people's colors and they would tell their friends and they would tell their friends and it'd be just like I put out my shingle and everybody just started pouring in.
Exactly.
And yeah, and that didn't happen.
No, and you know what's funny? I had so many in the beginning, so many people who said, "Oh, how interesting! I will come to you." It could take 3 years before they showed up.
Yes, and I think that was a recognition for me, penny drop that, and my husband actually was the one who said this to me. He said, "You're a very considered purchase,"
Right.
meaning this isn't something people need,
Mm.
or that they are aware that they need. It's something that they build a desire for,
Right.
and so that takes time.
Yeah.
And I think the challenge you had, because I used to think, oh, there's so many other color consultants around,
Mm.
that's a problem. But actually, it's a benefit because when you're the only one in a area or in a city, people don't even know what color consulting is. So you
No.
have to market them on the idea before you
Yeah.
even can market them on yourself.
Right.
And that's a real hard uphill climb. And when you started, I think color analysis was having a bit of a heyday,
Yeah.
at least here in the US. I don't know if it was so much in Europe at the time, but it was having a little bit of a surge. When I started 15 years ago, if I said to someone, seasonal color analysis, they said, "Oh, I remember that. It was something people did back in the 1980s."
That's what I hear here too. Yeah.
Yes, and then
Yeah.
you had to convince them, well, that it was still valid. Now there's all of this, um, all these people emerging saying they're doing color analysis. They're doing it very poorly in many cases, but
Mm,
it does mean I don't have to. Have you found that? Like I don't have to explain
mm,
to people. People know what it is. If I'm in a fabric store and they're saying, "Oh, what are you buying this fabric for?" and I explain I'm making color swatches for my color lab, they're like, "Oh, I'm so interested in that." But it doesn't mean, even if they are very interested, that
mm,
they're going to
mm.
come to you tomorrow.
No, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
Yeah.
think that's an important, you have to play the long game. And a lot of people get into this business, um, and they're playing a short game. Are you okay? If they're not, you know, seeing profit within a very short space of time, they kind of get
Yeah.
discouraged.
Mm,
And they think, okay, well, I can't sustain this business. But you have to have a long-term business plan.
yeah. And
Yeah,
that's something that I did not know how to do. And also, when I started, there was no internet.
right.
So I
Yeah,
didn't have a homepage until a few years later.
right.
So it was
Yeah.
word of mouth. It was talking about it at the fitness studio where I went, or to neighbors or to friends. But it was such a new thing at the time that a lot of people thought, oh, exciting. And I was in the first place we lived in Germany was town where I was invited to give, I was interviewed on the radio, local radio. That got me a lot of clients.
Mm,
So that was
yeah.
one way to do it. But we only
Yes,
stayed there a few years and then we moved to another city, had to start all over again.
right.
So it
That,
took a while in the beginning and I almost gave up because I can't make it. And then I was told by somebody, Wenche, this is right for you. You just have to stick it out. Then I went to my first AICI convention, became a member, and then I got the confidence. I could tell that I could dress quite well compared to a number of people who were there, for example. So I realized I was not so bad off after all.
right.
So that was a breakthrough. Yeah,
Yes, I think confidence is a big factor for
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Confidence that when people don't seem interested in what you're selling, that you
yeah,
still have something really strong to offer and you just have to hang in
yeah,
there. And
right.
I think, I would say to someone starting out, if you are dependent on earning an income for your living, do
Yeah,
not quit your day job, even
right.
if you have a flurry of interest at the beginning.
Yeah,
Because often you need to do this work alongside
yeah,
another job until you get to the point where you can, sustain the expenses of the business as well as paying yourself. And for a lot of people, it never gets past a side,
right,
hustle,
right,
because they just don't have the business savvy to get it
right.
to a place where it's self-sustaining.
Mm,
And that's okay. It can be something you do in conjunction with something else, and maybe you don't get to do it full time until your kids are grown or until you're retired
yeah,
or until your circumstances have changed in some way that because there are feast and famine, right?
yeah,
As
yeah.
in this work. So you can
Yeah.
be suddenly like you have established yourself long enough now, and then you have a wait list for
Mm,
consultations.
yeah,
And you're having people to have to wait maybe a month or maybe 6 months to see you because you're fully booked.
yeah,
That's every color consultant's dream.
Yeah.
but it's
Yeah.
not everybody's reality.
No.
And I think that, that comes from years of building, 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 that you become well known, you become very sought after, and you're busy. But when you're starting out, you don't have that.
No.
Unless
You
you're
have nothing to
charging
show
like,
for it yet. You
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing color, you're not doing Suzanne Cagle color analysis if you're getting that many people at the start, unless maybe
Mm.
you have a huge circle of people and a very evangelistic personality, and you
Yeah.
just draw everybody to you. Because we always have those exceptions too.
Yeah.
So, um, so how did you manage to build up such a successful and I assume profitable color business? What do you think are some of the keys to your success besides persistence, which obviously is the number one thing we've just talked about?
I think that I'm able to project my 100% conviction about what I'm doing,
Hmm.
and that I have to be my own best advertising. I have to always dress well, so you can meet a client at the grocery store and you better
Mm.
watch it. I have learned the hard way.
Yes.
I think that it's my enthusiasm that comes through, and people see. I have a lot of people who make appointments with me because they have seen um, on my homepage that I know how to dress
Yes.
with the right colors, and not every color consultant who use other methods know how to do that. So a lot of people who end up with me, they understand that I go deep on the issue, and that it entails more than just color. It is self-accept, it's being who you are, it's many other issues that have a lot to do with psychology. And when they
Hmm.
read the information on my homepage, they see that I work differently than a lot of other people. So I
Yeah.
attract the people who want the real thing. And I cannot serve, of course, everybody. And there are people who contact me, and when I don't have time tomorrow or next week, they don't wait, then it's not my client. I have no
Right.
problem
Yeah.
with that.
Hmm.
Then they go for something that's easier, and perhaps that's perfect for them.
Yes.
But I
Yeah.
get people who want something else.
Yeah, I think you've touched on a really important note is that you are your advertisement.
Yeah.
And I think we're just in a time in society where people are hopping on social media and, they've got like their no makeup on and their hair all messed up and they're wearing, something that looks just absolutely awful on them and they're just chatting away.
I know.
And you cannot build a business as a color consultant with
Yeah.
that approach because
No.
people need to see the difference. They need to
Yeah.
see that, oh, this actually works.
Yeah.
Every time I see this person show up, they're showing up in their colors, in their style, in their right fabrics and textures. And,
Yeah.
not that we all can't make the occasional mistake in something we buy or
Sure.
try and think, oh, I think this works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but I do think if you are not representing
Yeah.
the end product of your work through your own dressing, that you're going to have a very hard time building a
Yeah.
business
Yeah.
because you are your business. And you don't
Exactly.
have to have closets full of clothes, but you
Mhm.
do have to be first have aligned your wardrobe, even
Yeah.
if you only have four things and you're wearing them over and over again.
Mhm. Yeah.
They need to be fully aligned with you. And I always say every color consultant needs a color consultant, right?
Yes.
I have been shocked to have met people who are doing color consultation, and I asked them, who did your color palette? And they said, well, I've never actually had one done.
Oh, what?
Yes. So in their
I don't
training,
understand
maybe,
that.
they partnered up with people and they were given a fan from another student. And they'll say, yeah, I'm not really sure it is my right colors. And I'm like,
Yeah.
if you are a color consultant,
Yeah.
you have to have test driven the product. You have to know that you have, and I really think I don't care what other system you're using, you need a
Yeah.
custom color palette if you're going to be a
Yes.
color consultant. Every
Yeah,
color has to be completely dialed in, or you shouldn't be,
exactly.
you're not going to be able to sell yourself. That's going to be a
Oh,
problem right
yeah.
off the bat.
There
And
always are
people
people who
are,
know more than you.
yes, and people are very judgy. So you really want to make sure that you're
Yeah,
dialed in. So showing up, being confident,
yeah.
selling your product, and anything else that
Well, you
you think
show
is
that you love what you're doing, you know. I mean,
Mm,
it's this enthusiasm, this that's convincing,
yes.
you know,
Yeah.
and then you can get other people interested because you show that you love what you're doing and that it works, and
Hmm.
they want it too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think that's often the case.
Yes, I think so too. People catch your passion and your
Yeah,
enthusiasm,
yeah,
and they do, And then I think for me, a huge turning point was when I started to recognize that I needed to showcase my work, not just on myself, but my
yeah,
work with others.
yeah,
And I was fortunate to come into this color world when social media was, all set up for me.
yeah,
So being
yeah.
able to post a palette or a client on Facebook and Instagram, um, that really made a difference. I find a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want anyone to judge my work, so I'm not going to put anything out there. But then people can't see what you're doing.
Mm.
I have people who say, "Oh, I've been stalking you on social media for the last 3 years."
Yes, yes.
And I love everything you're doing, and I
Mm.
just wanted it for myself.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know how I would do that,
Mm.
without, and a lot of people are relying on like celebrity images, um, and stock photos that come maybe from the people who are training them.
Yeah.
That doesn't tell me what your work is. That doesn't
No,
tell me if you know how to do a good color
no,
palette. It doesn't tell
no.
me, if you're not sharing reviews of your clients and your clients
Mm.
aren't, speaking out for you. That's really tough, to
Mm.
sell yourself. So I think in this social media age, anybody starting out now has to be prepared,
Yes, yes.
that you're going to have to share your work if you
Yeah,
want other people to buy.
yeah, I agree.
Because there's so much competition,
Yeah,
right, on Instagram that
yeah,
you have to, or Facebook, that you have to stand out. You have to
yeah,
find a way to stand out and
yeah.
showcase your expertise.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
So, what do you think are the biggest challenges for someone who's starting a color business in Europe? Because I know our markets are
Mm.
subtly different. They're the same and yet different. So what would you say is the biggest challenge for, say, one of your students today who's just starting
Yeah.
it?
Well, it's of course it's a big financial investment.
Mm,
Get the question is, do you have an office at home or do you have to rent a place? Because the fabrics that the way I work, they take a lot of space. Now we have found another solution of using old cabinets from architect drawings and
mm,
have the trays in there. Then they're also protected and they are compact. They don't take as much space as in my studio, for example. So you have to have good lighting. If you don't have good lighting, forget it,
mm-hmm,
in my opinion. Um, and you have to, as you say, have another income in the beginning, depending on how successful you are. And um, you cannot expect this to take off like a rocket the minute you finish your training, because people don't know who you are or where you are.
mm-hmm,
It takes time to build it up. It took time for me too. So that you need patience and you need to be so convinced inside that this is what I want. I'm meant to do this,
mm-hmm.
right?
Right.
This is not just a hobby. I tell this is serious.
Yeah.
Um, and I don't even, in several of my latest students, they did not get the certificate at the end of the training because I was not pleased with where they were standing. And I give them some more days for training so that I'm sure that I can let them loose, you know. So because it comes back to me if they don't do good work.
Right.
So there
Yes.
I'm fairly strict.
Yeah. So I think here in the US, there's a couple of challenges for someone starting today, and that is that there are, I'm going to say there are now thousands
Yeah.
of alternative approaches to seasonal color
Mm.
analysis. I mean, I just literally learn about a new one every day. And
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my
Yeah.
goodness, where did that one come from? I have to go back and trace, who did they kind of water their system down from? But I think that you have a lot of competition, right? And people are selling these uh, online, consultations for,
Mm.
$50 or $25, And if you are a trained color consultant, first of all, you're going to have spent potentially 10 plus $1,000 on your training. You're
Yeah.
not going and getting trained in 5 minutes and,
Yeah.
relying on AI computer
Yeah.
to put a picture in and spit something out. So, I've had people send me letters saying, or emails saying, oh, how come you charge so much? I can get a color analysis done by anybody else for, a few
Yeah.
$100s. I'm like, you
Yeah.
go for it.
Yeah. Right.
That's great. You get what you pay for, right? And if
Yeah.
if that color analysis works for you, terrific.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think you're having to compete against that, which was something that, 15 years ago, I wasn't yet having to compete against to get started.
Mhm.
So that's one thing. So you really do have to find your space on social
Yeah.
media to be able to rise above that and to know that you're
Right.
offering a better product. And I think the other challenge is, I know like you've got a gorgeous studio. No one very few people in the US can afford to
Mhm.
start out with a studio. They're going to
Mhm.
have to work, from home.
Mhm.
And we have some pre-made palette systems that are out there, and some of them are, better than others. But if you want to have a custom color lab, you really do have to do the work to create that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that for a lot of people is a huge hurdle. And I think it's even more of a hurdle for you because you don't have really good pre-made palette options for people.
No.
If they don't
No.
have, a color lab, they're kind of in trouble.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the challenges. And also, I think here in the US, we want to do everything yesterday,
Yeah.
right? And we love systems and we want everything to be fast. And it's
Yeah.
like, and we want to make money instantly and
Yeah.
we want to learn it yesterday. And, I'm working with clients, my students who are training or mentoring with me. It's a slow burn, right?
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
like there's a lot to learn. I've been doing this 15 years and I'm still learning. So
Me
I
too.
think that you have to be prepared that
Mm.
this is not a one and done. This is a
No.
start and keep
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
building, learning for yourself, for your business, even in your own wardrobe.
Yeah.
You know, you 15 years later, I'm recognizing certain things. I was in the store the other day and I was going through, I'm like, oh, too heavy, too heavy, too heavy. That's a new word for me
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
recognize why I'm going to be passing by certain fabrics and things. It's just too heavy for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And, 15 years ago when I started, I remember my mentor saying to me, oh, that looks very heavy on you. I had no idea what she was talking about. It's like,
Yeah.
what do you mean? I think it's fine.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. But the eye gets trained every day. And, you live in a different climate than we do. But for example, I have a lot of old clothes that I love that are timeless. And I find it very challenging to find all the time new combinations with what I already have. I have a
Yeah,
lot of accessory and I'm a scarf lady. I need scarves. So, there's so much you can do with that to make an older piece look new and totally in.
right.
And I see that's part of my creative way of using my wardrobe. And I put pictures out like that, and I get a lot of likes when I write how old these things are because people uh, today think differently about buying clothing, at least here in Europe, because of
Right.
the environmental issues with textiles. So that is also often a motivation for people who want to do the training.
Yeah. Now, we've talked about some of the challenges. What do you think are the advantages for someone starting today that you didn't have when you started out?
I think that, I live in a small country. The advantage now is that this is really in. That's also probably why I have so much to do. So I
Right.
think that will make it easier for them. They don't have to explain too much about what this is. People
Hmm.
know, and when they find out this is individual, although we have to sell it the right way, I think they're going to do fine. So this is an advantage.
Hmm.
Um, and that people want to also think about not buying too many things, but buying quality and not quantity. That is very much in the media also.
Hmm.
And buy more natural fibers and to buy things that will last for a while. These are things that they write a lot about. So we are riding on that wave.
Yes, I think that would be similar here. Probably the thing I would add is that we're so visual now with all of the social media
Yeah,
channels that it's an opportunity that we have that we didn't have before to
yeah,
really showcase the work in a
yeah.
way that previous generations just didn't, they could have a group of maybe 50 people
Mm.
and put some slides up or have just magazine pictures, on a collage board, and they were doing presentations that way to showcase the work. And now we have YouTube, we have Instagram, we have Facebook. So I think that does make it exciting for people who are, passionate about the work, who are well trained, to be able to really promote
Yeah. The
themselves
same
as
thing
well
here.
as, yeah,
It's the same
yeah,
thing here. Of course, without social media, you can forget it.
yes,
But I
yeah.
also will mention another thing, and that is I always encourage my students and new colleagues to give, for example, evenings with girls groups or women's or whatever is your specialty. I'm doing one on Monday night with people who are in a sewing course.
Mm,
And then of course, my main subject is style, which I was also trained in. And I talk about color when they're going to bring 4 outfits, each of them. And then, of course, I speak about color, and that's a great way to get clients.
yes,
Because when I, in a very subtle and diplomatic way, explain that this nuance is perhaps not the one that supports them the most, um, you know. So there are many ways of doing it, and personal contact is also important so that they can feel your energy.
hmm, yes,
It's not just a picture, but it's like, how do I deal with people?
right. Yeah, and that, there's all those little niche groups, and that one that you've just mentioned is a fantastic one.
Yeah,
Because if you are investing a lot of time in sewing, the last thing you want to do is sew something that is the wrong color or style
yeah,
or fit for you. So I think that, yeah, that's a niche group that, is
yeah,
a great way for a new color consultant to kind of get in, talking to students, who are doing fashion, talking to people who are on stage and need to, show
exactly.
up and have a presence. Like there's a lot of
Yeah.
little niche groups that if you
Mm.
want to focus on one, you could grow an incredible color business just
Yes.
in one of those small groups. We talked, you and I, a lot because we're actually practicing this, where we have other people in our lives, other color consultants who, support us and who we can talk difficult things with, and whether it's business or whether it's a client. Um, and I think that that's something that's missing for a lot of people is mentorship
Yeah.
and community.
Mm.
This could be a very lonely business,
Mm.
but you could also be doing a really bad job
Yeah.
if you
Yeah.
don't have people checking you and speaking into what you're doing. So I think that mentorship is something that's really missing in this work
Mm,
that used to be much more prevalent when,
mm,
in the 1980s. People would train, but then they would be mentored by someone who
yeah,
had been doing this for
yeah,
much longer than them.
yeah.
And I know for myself that the only reason I'm in color today is because I had this, I call it a divine appointment with my
Mm,
mentor, Kathy Williams, who mentored me, made sure that
yeah,
I learned the right way and
yeah,
that I knew what I was doing before I just was let loose on the general public.
yeah, right. Yeah.
And, that's something I offer for others, and I know you do too, but what do you think about that, about people who are sort of lone wolves out there thinking they know everything and they don't really have never had good mentorship?
I think it's extremely important because we can get into a rut, we can get into habits that perhaps and nobody's checking us. So I work with my colleagues that I've trained on this. I've done that for years, and I think it's very important because we can get blind with our own work
Hmm.
and not use enough creativity or variety. And even if all of us have a different set of eyes, when we do palette for the same person or the same picture, in this case, we can have 5 palettes that are all good, but a little different.
Mm.
It's not a science, it could be a little bit lighter or darker or stronger or whatever, but the same color and it harmonizes and the blend of the color is correct. It can look good, so that it's not, there is variety, but you cannot make big mistakes. Then
Mhm. Yeah, if you have someone in that group of five whose palette is
who
completely
hasn't gotten it, then
right,
that has to be, we have to work with that person, you
right.
know, because
Yeah.
I feel we have a big responsibility for our clients.
Mhm.
They believe what we are saying. They buy new clothes. They throw out other things based on the consultation. And I've had a number of clients who were consulted in the 80s with other methods that have gotten totally wrong colors.
Hmm. Yeah, or
So
the wrong season. Yeah.
yeah, wrong season and wrong colors. Some have gotten
Hmm.
3 different seasons by 3 different consultants.
Hmm.
It's not believable.
Yeah. Yeah, I think integrity in this work is another way you grow your business.
Mm,
Um, and I always say to my students, you have to have a lot of humility, especially
yes.
when you're first starting out, but really through the whole thing, because if you don't get it right
Yeah.
and you don't have anybody kind of saying,
Mm,
yeah, maybe there's an issue here, um, then what happens is your client is going to go out to look for another answer
yeah.
because it's not gonna resonate with them. So
Right.
then you're going to see them, especially in this social media age. Oh, they're popping up on someone else's, you
Yeah.
know, color page with a better palette,
Yeah.
or they're saying, "Oh, I finally found, my right palette." It's far better that if your client is unhappy with the palette, that
Mm,
you say, let me revisit it. Let me, if
exactly.
I need to get another colleague to review it with me to see if I've somehow missed or got something wrong,
Mm,
than to have, them go off and tell you,
mm.
no, you really blew it.
I have another suggestion, and that is what I tell my students when they just finish. I said, when you start work the first year, ask the client to come back after 3 months and check the palette and tell the client, I'm so new that I just want to be sure that you get the best result. And I want to be sure that I see then what I see now.
Right.
And that means that you are being honest. The client feels that she is important, or
Hmm.
he, that you care enough that their colors are right. Because in the beginning, you don't have the experience.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's very easy to make mistakes at the start
yeah,
because
yeah,
you're so enthusiastic and you think
yeah,
you've got it,
yes,
and you're still really learning. And every
yeah,
client, even to this day, I say every client teaches me something.
yeah,
It's like, oh, wow, I wouldn't have expected that color to work, and look, it does.
yeah.
So I think the other piece of that is is that if you can, if it's possible, you can go shopping with your client,
Yeah.
with your palette, and or go to do their closet with them
Mm.
and actually see these
Mm.
colors. That also gives you some confidence,
Mm.
that yes, oh, absolutely. And it also gives the client some confidence, right? Because
Yes.
I just did a shopping trip with a client a couple of weeks ago, and
Mm.
we were in the change room
Mm.
and we had found some of her colors and she was trying them on and she was
Yeah.
really liking them. And then I was pulling a few colors that were maybe what she would have worn before or a
Yeah.
little bit off, and
Right.
having her try those, and she
Yeah.
could see the difference.
Yeah.
Oh
Yes.
my goodness, wow.
Yeah.
It's subtle, but such a big difference. And I do that to try to train the client's eye in terms of, you
Mm.
can think, oh, this is almost, so she would be going, oh, I think this is almost it. And I would
Yeah.
say, well, let's try it.
Yeah. Right.
Rather than say, no, you're totally wrong.
Yeah.
But there's lots of ways you can check your work, and you
Mm.
can share, I think a lot of people feel like, oh, I do a palette, I have to do it in like an hour and a half or something. And in that time, I have to be 100% confident, I've got it right. And
Mm.
I would tell my students, like, you can say, I want to think about it. You
Yeah.
I want you
Exactly.
to come if you're not sure,
Yeah.
boy, you're
Absolutely.
you're a little bit challenging for me.
Yeah. Right.
Or I want to run it by my
Mm.
mentor, or
Mm.
my person who trained me, because there's just something here that I'm not quite confident about.
Yeah.
And and give yourself that time.
Yeah.
And I don't think obviously, the client pays what you've said you would charge. If it takes you extra time, that's on you for learning.
Yeah.
But I think no client minds you taking your time. That's what I
No.
discovered. I used to think, oh,
Yeah.
people will be in such a rush. They'll
Yeah.
be, and they're like, oh, I could be here all day. This is so much
Yeah.
fun. So I do think you have to give yourself permission
Yeah.
to
I agree.
not feel like you have to come up with an instant,
Mm.
result. And if
Yeah.
you're not sure, to admit that and to say, I might need to see you a second time, or
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like I need to check this with my mentor. Do you mind if I
Yeah.
take some pictures,
Mhm.
and consult with her?
Yeah.
I don't think because everybody wants a correct color palette.
Yes. Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Well, this has been amazing. As always, I love our conversations both on the air and off
Yeah.
the air. And I encourage anyone who is thinking about getting into this business to really first think about, how can you make this sustainable for yourself? What's going to be your business plan? In addition to just having fun with color and with people,
Mm.
you do need to know where you're going and how you're going to get there.
Right.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Venka, and
Thank you for
we'll have you
having
back
me.
again because I
Yes.
know everybody is enjoying these conversations with you. You have so much to share. Thanks for sharing with us today.
Thank you very much.